One Piece chapter 1104, it is titled Thank You Daddy. After such a long break, we are back with the One Piece manga. We left off where Kuma, he finally arrived on Egghead, he saved Bonney, and then he attempted to punch Saturn. In this chapter, we got to see the touching reunion between the two. We got to see Kuma deliver justice upon Saturn, and we also got to see Kizaru, he's back up, Saturn, he's ready to go as well, and it's about to be an all-out war, especially now that a Buster Call has been activated. Really good chapter, and such a way for Oda to come back after such a long break. But if you guys enjoy regular breakdowns like these, make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you guys never miss out a new video. With that way, my name is Potential Unleashed, and let's get into chapter 1104's breakdown. I usually don't talk about cover pages, but I wanted to do this one because it involves Sanji and his character. We saw that he gave Mice, I believe it was dessert after they got engaged, and the reason why I want to talk about this is because we know in the past how Sanji, he's affiliated with Mice and how he used to cook for them when he was younger. We also saw during the Onigashima raid that he saved Chuji, so I love this cover page request because it ties into Sanji's character. The punch that Kuma delivered, it was full of feelings because when you really think about it, everything that he's gone through, all the suffering that he has had on him, it's because of Saturn and other celestial dragons. His parents' death, Jenny's death, him becoming a slave, all of those feelings he's putting into this punch. And Saturn, he talks about how he used the self-destruct device that Vegapunk implemented the moment that Kuma was taken by the Revolutionary Army, but that doesn't work, and Kuma, he delivers a mean punch to Saturn. To me, it looked exactly like Luffy's punch on Charlos, just on a larger scale, because when you see Charlos, he only destroyed a couple of the chairs during the auction house. Compared to Saturn, he was sent flying and he destroyed the entire town. I thought that this panel was really beautiful, one of Oda's best works, and also the charge up in the punch, it reminded me a lot, or at least the angle of it, of Garp when he did his Galaxy Impact when Luffy finally learned Advanced Conquerors against Kaido. Vegapunk, he did indeed install the self-destruct device, however it's not a traditional one. Instead of Kuma exploding like Saturn originally thought, Kuma was only meant to shut down and he would be left in a vegetable-like state where he could no longer receive orders and no longer be able to move. So Vegapunk, he's wondering why Kuma is acting on his own, and this kind of reminds me of something that happened in Thriller Bark. Chopper, he asked if a soulless body could have its own will, and we saw Sindri, her body refused to obey an order from Gecko Moria, similar to what Kuma just did. Vegapunk, he talks about the Buccaneers, that they have a special characteristic than them other than their insanely strong bodies. However, he ended up cutting off, and so many in the community, including me, is wondering what this special characteristic is of the Buccaneers, and chances are it has something to do with why, number one, they're a special race, and two, why how they committed this grave crime according to Saturn in chapter 1095. Bonney and Kuma, they finally reunite after such a long time. She acknowledged the fact that all the things that Kuma did for her because she was able to see his memory. She says even though many people will call you a tyrant, that's okay because she knows that Kuma is the coolest and kind-hearted person in the world. I love this panel, seeing them embrace, seeing them interact, because this emotion right here is what makes me love One Piece. I'd say this is when One Piece is at its peak. Saturn, he gets back up after taking this punch and he clearly looks wounded. He's blooded and he's missing his arm. I also love Vegapunk here because he's like, well, I don't really have an explanation for it, so let's just say it's the power of love. I just love this sarcastic remark from him. I'm not entirely sure if Vegapunk, if he's just saying this trying to hide what the Buccaneers can truly do, or Oda, he's just doing this to showcase parental love. Saturn, he starts to regenerate his entire arm. This sort of regeneration, it kind of reminds me of Orihime from Bleach. Her ability, the Soten Kishun, is the rejection of events, and in essence it reverses the damage or effects taken in battle. So she puts them in a state where they were before taking damage, and if Saturn has something, at least a fraction of this ability, he very well could be a problem. As Saturn attempts to hurt Kuma, Sanji, he blocks the attack, Franky also punctures Saturn with a radical beam, and then Kizaru, he joins the fight, retaliates, and sends Franky flying. Because of Kuma's involvement, Saturn, he authorizes a buster call, and this is because, well, a couple of reasons. Number one, a slave revolted against him, but two, Vegapunk, who studied the secrets of the world, Kuma's alive, and he has the blood of someone who should be extinct, and Luffy, he has the power of Nika, and all three of them Saturn believes are infected and should be dead. I think this is interesting, especially when you look back at chapter 1090, because there are three things that he mentioned in this chapter. Number one, York's safety. Number two, the Punk records. And number three, the power station producing the Mother Flame that needed to be secured. At this point, he's so pissed off that it doesn't even matter what he was trying to accomplish before, because now he's done it and called in a buster call. Luffy, he is currently missing during all of this chaos. And how did this happen? Remember back in chapter 1103, Luffy, he received some food and we didn't know who it was. A lot of people were speculating that it was Kizaru. Well, it actually very well could be Caribou, because we've seen him provide Luffy with support before. He also has proven that he can absorb living and non-living things with his devil fruit. We saw it with the mermaids during Fisherman Island, as well as jewels and food. So if he absorbed Luffy and carried him away, that would make a lot of sense, because he's still a pirate. He needs to escape, and with all these marines with the buster call with Saturn and Kizaru here, his chances of escaping are slim to none. So why not bet on Luffy, the man who just became Emperor of the Sea, the man that took down Kaido, because, well, he's got nothing else to lose. I've also seen some people talk about maybe because Katarina Devon, she can disguise herself, maybe since the Blackbeard pirates are there, it could have been her, and she was the one who disguised as a random marine and took Luffy away, trying to steal his devil fruit. There are two main threats that we have to deal with before we can escape, that being Saturn and Kizaru, and I wanted to talk about really quickly some potential matchups for the Straw Hats. I'm also leaving this exclusive to the Straw Hats, because if I started doing people like the Seraphim, like the big giant robot, like the Blackbeard pirates, and a lot more characters, it'd probably get a little bit complicated. I think that Luffy versus Saturn, that's the obvious answer, as they are right now with how broken Saturn's abilities is. Luffy, he's the only one who is broken enough to challenge him. Plus, it's always been written for Luffy, who is Nika, to go against the Gorosei, since for some reason they have beef with him. That leaves Sanji and Franky versus Kizaru, because as of right now, they're the only people of the Straw Hats who are on the same floor as them. I think that Sanji, he is fast enough to keep up with Kizaru, and a lot of people have been wanting to see this ever since we saw the matchup in one of the One Piece openings. I personally don't think that Franky is strong enough or fast enough to compete with Kizaru, especially that he doesn't have Haki, but then again, we were introduced to Vegapunk or Atlas using some form of gloves that allowed them to touch light. Being the Zoro fanboy that I am, I'm not gonna lie, I want him to fight Kizaru for a few reasons. Number one is because Kizaru, he always has interactions with the second in command. We've seen it with Ben Beckman, with Rayleigh, with Marco, and Zoro previously. Second, Zoro, he's the right hand. He always fights the second strongest, and we presume Kizaru to be that. I also think it would look kind of bad if Luffy and Sanji were the only two individuals that were able to have interactions and fight against Kizaru. Lastly, number three, for how bad Kizaru did Zoro during Sabaody, that brother, he has to get his get back. I know that Zoro is currently fighting Rob Lucci, and I probably hold him in a higher regards than most, but he ain't Kizaru. During different moments of the story, Oda, he has had it to where he's narratively written it, where different Straw Hats, they fight different opponents and that they switch different matchups, so it's possible that Oda could still do this. Let me know how you guys feel about chapter 1104 in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you guys never miss out on a new video. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok is on the screen and in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to unleash your potential.